All right, everyone, this is Wild Phil. We're going to have a fun episode today on Wild Phil's Osophy. Let's get wild. Today, we're going to talk about, I was driving around the other day, and I was just thinking to myself how I had this nostalgic feeling, and I was thinking about how far we've come with file sharing. Some of you don't even know what the hell file sharing is, so I'm going to go over the history of nostalgic file sharing. I'm going to talk about put a little Wild Phil spin on it, what I mean by that is some of it's going to be comedic and not all of it's going to be completely accurate because this is Wild Phil's history. So I cannot wait for the music nerds out there to shit on me in the comments. But I'm telling you the history of file sharing based on Wild Phil. So you might learn some basic facts, you might learn some things that you didn't know, and it'll be entertaining. And I'm going to end off with why Spotify is so shitty, and then I'm going to go into something even crazier that most people I would say don't know about a website called what.cd. So let's get started with file sharing. What the fuck is file sharing? Why was it so nostalgic? Why was it so amazing? Well, let me tell you. I started playing music when I was in 3rd grade. I was a huge fucking music fan. It was an escape from the trauma in my life. I just loved music. And then since 15, I've been playing in bands. Now I'm 35, and I still write music to this day. Check it out. I have my psychedelic band, Kroll Kleks, KROLKLEKS, and then I have my black metal band, which is Red Tongue Ghost. Check them out. Anyways, moving on from the plugs. So the point is, back then, you young people today will never understand how hard it was to find good music because you were restricted to what radio wanted you to hear. I am so fucking sick. After working in union shops, after being around old fucking dads that drink Budweiser, I'm so fucking sick of classic rock. It's so fucking cheesy. There is nothing badass about Kiss or Dire Straits anymore. I'm sorry. Anyways, did I trigger any of you old bastards? Anyway, so it was just so hard to find good music because you only, before internet, you had to spread everything by word of mouth. Somebody had to recommend to you, yo, this is so badass. But what does badass mean, you know? I remember to this day when on the same year, Cold Chamber came out with an album and Prodigy came out with The Fat of the Land. And I was arguing with a friend of mine trying to convince another friend, no, you should get Cold Chamber. No, you should get Prodigy. No, they're more badass. And they're completely different bands. So you had to only spread by word of mouth, and you didn't even know how to describe it. It sucked. And a lot of times, even if you did spread by word of mouth, you had to fucking pray that there was that record at your local record store, or somebody had it that you can rip it onto a tape cassette before there was CD burning. So I think it was a tough time. Another quick example was in 6th grade, I really, really wanted to get into Slayer. Everyone was telling me Slayer's like Metallica, but with fucking balls and no ballads. That sounded perfect to me. And the only thing I could do was I went to my local library, and the only Slayer album they had was Seasons in the Abyss, which, because of nostalgia, is my favorite album by them. But it's not even their best album. It's like maybe number 5 on the list because it was not as amazing to the fans. To me, it was because of nostalgia. But moving on. So what is file sharing? File sharing, these days everybody listens to Spotify. And I'm going to go into the reasons why you shouldn't and why sometimes it's even foolish as far as music goes. But back then, so here's what happened. Everything, like I said, this is Wild Phil history. So everything that was put on a CD was in MP3, either 192 format or 320. And you guessed it, 320 is the higher quality. So what exactly is the difference? From my music mixing and mastering experience, when you mix and master an album, the best quality that you can get on a recording is either, I think it's lossless, FLAC, or WAV. Usually I get WAV, a WAV file. Here's the difference. I know some of this you're not understanding. Here's the difference between a WAV file and an MP3. WAV file sounds like vinyl compared to listening to it through the radio. A WAV file picks up every little fucking thing. So you'll hear every little instrument, every little detail. It's going to be pristine, right? So why would you put MP3s on CDs? Well, because MP3s are condensed, they're compressed, and they're less megabytes. So say on a fucking, on a CD that can only fit like 80 megabytes, or I forgot what it was. But the point is, I remember the way I did it in my head was minutes equals megabytes. So if a song was 3 minutes long, it was usually around 3 to 4 megabytes, right? If it was in WAV format, it would be like 32. So 3 versus 32. You could barely fit a whole fucking album on a CD. And they didn't want that. They wanted the point of moving from tape to CD is that you don't have to flip it over like a cassette, and it's easier to fast forward and rewind. So everything was in MP3 format, right? Now, the first file sharing, what is file sharing? It's a really nice word for stealing music. That's really what it is. Because, and I don't know why people made a big fuss about it. Obviously, Lars from Metallica did, because he's a tool overall. He's the biggest fucking epitome of what a tool is. Everything about him. There's nothing I like about Lars Ulrich, and I don't think anybody does, not even the people in Metallica. He's not even a good drummer. There's nothing good about Lars, okay? Why do the shitty ones stay alive? Why isn't anybody giving them cancer? Anyways, moving on. So file sharing is stealing music, quote unquote, because what it was is, like I said, when you go to a library, you could have easily gone there and shared the CD. You could have ripped it onto your computer. I actually almost gave a fucking library nerd a panic attack because I was trying to take out this audiobook, but the audiobook was in like 10, 20 CDs. And I was like, can't I? Like, I listened to it. To this day, I listen to an iPod. Is there any way I can rip this onto my iPod? And he's like, no comment. Because he's not supposed to tell me that I can't rip it. I'm like, dude, I'm not stealing this. I'm going to read this fucking book and delete it. And he couldn't answer. So here's the difference between a library and a file sharing platform like Napster. Napster, you share all of your files with the world. So every single song out there could be downloaded and ripped from all over the fucking world and shared multiple times. And that's why it was considered stealing. You got to be a real bitch like Lars to be bothered by it. So what did Lars do? The history was, so Napster came out around 2001. It became the most famous one because Lars sued them, and karma flows because Lars is a fucking millionaire and a talentless millionaire at that. So he sues Napster. Napster was known for specifically sharing music files. And what happens after he sues Napster? More platforms come out: BearShare, LimeWire, Kazaa, and they share even more of Metallica. So fuck you, Lars. But yeah, they shared even more. And these other platforms, they actually started sharing other things like album covers or porn or books. They started, I think when I was at that age, I downloaded the Anarchist Cookbook. And so they started sharing more files other than just music files. And it's so funny to think about it because, like, for people who don't know, like, you start off with 56K modem, which was a modem that was connected to your landline telephone. Let me put it this, so, and then it moved up to cable modem, and now it's even higher. I don't even know what it's called now. That's how fucking old I am. But the point is, I remember to download one song when it was 56K modem, it took like 15 minutes. To download a movie, it took like 24 hours. And that's why this is so nostalgic, because I remember having BearShare and LimeWire and Kazaa, and I would want to download a movie. There'd be a new movie that came out, whatever, fucking Gladiator or, Apocalypto, and I would have to go to my friend because I didn't have enough money for internet. He had cable modem because I had 56K, and we would go there, and you had to download a movie and it took 2 days, 2 full days, and you hoped that it was the right file. Here's some Wild Phil comedy. So while I was on Kazaa, LimeWire, and BearShare, at the time, I was like 15 years old. So I'm going to be fucking honest. Listen, I was an OG troll. I was a troll before that word was even used. Listen how great of a troll I was. This is where I do my good karma work, because what happened is, being 15, 16 years old, I wanted to download porn. I wanted to download shit. And I mean, the internet wasn't fast enough to just watch it on Xhamster or Pornhub. You had to fucking download movies. And sure enough, you download something and it might be something else. So, or it might not be even good looking. You know, like you download fucking, two lesbians eating each other out, and it's like from the 70s, and it looks like it was filmed with a potato. So, being 15, 16, I looked up Barely Legal. I did, because I didn't want to look at old broads at the time. It was natural. And here's the fucked up thing. It was an unregulated internet. You could do fucking anything on the internet back then. So there was a lot of that I saw files that said 12-year-old spreading eagle, 10-year-old fingering herself, right? And I was like, this can't be real. This is fucking crazy. And because it was unregulated, it was real. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. So what did I do as a little Wild Phil troll at 15, 16? I used to go on this website called rotten.com. It's pretty much the same exact thing as Faces of Death. You know, there's people, they have a video of somebody jumping off a building and shattering their fucking skull. Or they have a video of whatever, a guy jumping off his motorcycle and getting flattened by a steamroller. I don't know. Just angry teenage boy shit. So what I did is I downloaded the most bizarre, fucked up photo that I saw, which I think I remember it was a miscarriage by a woman that survived the atomic bomb drop. So it was basically a baby that was extra crispy Popeyes style without seasoning. And I named it Hot 6-Year-Old Spreading Eagle or something. And I got a lot of death threats from pedophiles. It was absolutely fucking hilarious. And eventually, when I realized I was doing some good work by trolling these pedophiles, I did do some actual troll work. For example, I remember when Two Girls, One Cup came out. Around that time, people were still super fans of the movie Titanic. So I just looped Two Girls, One Cup so that it equaled the same amount of megabytes as Titanic, and named it Titanic. So you got some couple wanting to watch a nice movie, Titanic, and you got bitches eating shit when they open it up. It was hilarious for 15-year-old me. Anyways, moving on. So I guess it was a kind of file sharing catfish. So moving on. So after Napster, there was Kazaa, LimeWire, BearShare, and like I said, technology was moving quick. We went from landline modems, so each song takes 15 minutes, to cable modem, each song takes 3 minutes, to now, I mean, we stream now. And like I mentioned all the reasons why file sharing was amazing. Because not only was it amazing, but this was the first time too. Here's another thing that people don't understand that's streamed now. You got these things called playlists on Spotify or on iTunes, right? That didn't exist until file sharing started. It was like I downloaded whatever, whoever's album. Like I'm going to shit on Pantera right now because I never fucking was. I think Pantera is mediocre at the very best. And they maybe have 3 songs that I like. So what happened? I'd want to make a fucking thrash metal CD mix. But I only like 3 songs by Pantera. I'm not fucking going through all of their shithead filler albums that sound like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Fuck that shit. I'm going to download these 3 songs that I like. So you can make a mix. And so that's exactly what I did. It was also great when relatives asked me to make them like a opera mix, Yanni and Andrea Bocelli, and then all the way at the end you got Anal Cunt. It was hilarious to see their expression when they're in their car. Anyways, so we're moving on. Kazaa, LimeWire, BearShare. Then we moved on to uTorrent. So this whole time that file sharing is happening, not only is it getting, not only is like the speed of the internet getting faster, so you could get things quicker, but you could get, obviously bigger files quicker. So that's when things such as uTorrent opened up. Like I said, this is Wild Phil history. So these are the only programs that I used. I used uTorrent. What is uTorrent? uTorrent was like the megalodon behemoth god of file sharing, because now internet was at its fastest pace and you could get not only the biggest files but a shit ton of files. I actually almost crashed my computer because I wanted to like every 90s fucking kid, especially boy in a single mother family and dad issues. I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger. I fucking loved him. I know he's a fucking joke with a horrible accent, but I wanted a huge portion of his action movies. No, I don't want to fucking see Pumping Iron, where he's just lifting and talking about jagging off and having this weird gay bromance with his steroid using, lifters, co-lifters, whatever you call them. No, I don't want to watch that shit. So I went on uTorrent and I typed in Arnold Schwarzenegger and I wanted to download the action movies. It said Arnold Schwarzenegger collection. My computer almost crashed because instead of downloading 3, 4, 5 action movies that I knew, it downloaded his entire fucking catalog. So that's how quick technology was moving. And it was honestly good because at that time it was perfect for people who binge watch TV shows. At the time, I still to this day on my terabyte I have the entire All in the Family collection, the entire Frasier collection, the entire X-Files. It was a great thing. So this is basically the history of file sharing. It started off with Napster, then we went to uTorrent, and I still kind of use uTorrent. I think there's BitTorrent. I think there's a lot of them right now. But the point is, so where do we go today? We move on to Spotify. Let me tell you about Spotify now. Why is Spotify, in my opinion, in many people's opinion, why is it worse than downloading stuff? Well, number one, I'm going to tell you number one reason why Spotify is, as far as music goes, okay? Spotify is perfect for podcasts because, to be honest, some of them you can't get the podcasts anywhere else, like JRE. And the other thing is, like, nobody really gives a fuck about the sound quality of somebody talking. It really doesn't matter. I mean, this isn't fucking ASMR. So Spotify is a good platform for podcasts. Why is it bad for music? I'll tell you why. Number one, you got to support the artists. I know I sound like some artsy fucking asshole or maybe even a little version of Lars Ulrich, but let me tell you, this is a true example. This is a anecdotal, true first witness experience of mine with Spotify. I had my album, so I have 2 bands. You should check them out. I have a psychedelic band for fans of Black Angels, My Bloody Valentine, Brian Jones, Tom Esker. It's called Krolkleks, KROLKLEKS. And then I have a black metal band on there for fans of Abath, Immortal, Churchburn. And my band is called Red Tongue Ghost, okay? I didn't even put Red Tongue Ghost on. Well, no, they are on Spotify. But let me tell you, I've only had that music for 3 years. Let me tell you, when I was in Krolkleks, that is a band that I've been releasing music for about 12 years, okay? Here's what's crazy. After 12 years of releasing music through Krolkleks, no joke, I can even show it to you if anybody was that interested, but I got a check in the mail for $10. For 12 years of people listening to my band, I got a check for $10 from Spotify. They give you like a 16th decimal of a cent per play. That's how shitty Spotify is to artists. As far as how much I made on Bandcamp, because people would find my album And then they'd be like, I like this guy. I want to support him. I'll buy it off Bandcamp. As far as Bandcamp, I made like $100 a year. So $100 a year from Bandcamp compared to $10 in 12 years. That's how shitty Spotify is to artists. Now, what else is shitty about Spotify musically? This is the part where music nerds are going to go after me. So I like to go down this rabbit hole of, vinyl versus digital. And so here's something, I'll kill the argument right now, vinyl versus digital. Digital is caught up so much that it's as good, if not better, than vinyl. To put it short and to explain it from the information that I retained, they kind of like had these vinyl nerds versus these digital nerds fighting off, saying what's better quality. The truth is that technology has gone so far ahead that digital music quality is so technologically advanced that our ears can't even register how good quality it is. So it's matched up to vinyl. Why does that matter? Because here's what's funny. Spotify, I watched this little segment on, there's the board of Spotify and the people running the music on it were talking about what exactly does Spotify do to music. Well, here's what happened. When Spotify first came out, here's what people would do. So if we had a general volume meter, so say everything goes up to 10, volume 10, right? Spotify, everything went up to 10. And it was kind of like a rule of thumb. There was no rules because it was just coming out. It was just a new company. So every person that released albums on there, big artists, whoever the fuck you want to, Drake, Michael Jackson, whoever the fuck it was, they, just by rule of thumb, made their volume maximum at 10. Then you'd have these goofy fucking edgelord metalheads like me who'd be like, no, man, I want this to really stick out. So they would upload their music at level fucking 15. So you'd be listening to a playlist where you're listening to like some corporate, huge band like Korn or Marilyn Manson, and then suddenly your local band, whatever the fuck, Ass Eater comes on, and it blows your fucking ears away because they uploaded it at way higher volume than they should. So they had to regulate that. So here's what Spotify did. They made a specific format. I forgot what it's called. I did it on every album that I released, but I've only done it once a year. Every time I released an album, I did it once. So you could say I've done it, I've released 14 albums. I've done it 14 times in my life, and I still don't remember what it's called. But they have a specific format that you have to upload your music in so that it matches that volume and so that it takes up as little of cloud room as possible. What does that mean? That means some of the music quality on Spotify is going to be as shitty as cassette tape quality. Even shittier than that. It's going to be radio quality. So you don't want to, so there's certain music that you don't want to listen to on there. 60% of my music collection is rap, so I'm not shitting on rap, but rap is pretty basic music. It's beats, it's hi-hat, and it's a guy rapping. So that's not really what would I say? That's not really like a high. It's not a type of music that needs to be high quality for you to enjoy. But if say you like, I don't know, fucking progressive rock, like I love the band Yes, or I listen to black metal, a band like Batushka that has a choir, they have an orchestra, and they have black metal music, it's going to sound like shit. Here's a fun fact that I learned from that interview. Because I always argued with my metalheads how much I fucking hate death metal compared to black metal. Because, and this Spotify argument actually confirmed how shitty death metal is. Because black metal, so a lot of black metal, I mean, I'm not going to describe a genre in words, but as far as like the structure of song building, a lot of death metal just starts right away, one fucking plateau. It's just the whole fucking song is a plateau. It starts off like blast beats and it ends blast beats. A lot of black metal, that's why they say it's Viking music. That's why they say it's pagan music, because it has a little bit of a build-up, and then it goes nuts, and then it goes back to a build-up. It's like a fucking march into a Viking war, right? There's a lot of, like, I guess what the Spotify board called dynamics. So what they were saying is, somebody asked the Spotify board, they were like, how come certain music sounds like absolute shit on Spotify, but certain music sounds the same? And the example they used was, why does classical music sound like shit on Spotify? Why does death metal doesn't? Why doesn't death metal? Death metal sounds the same. Well, the reason why is because things like classical music, things like, I would say even like techno music, like Aphex Twin, like electronic, and black metal, they have a lot of dynamics. So when you hear, say for example, classical music, I forgot what the song is called. I think it's Beethoven, and it's in Clockwork Orange. It's like, it keeps going up and down the volume, because this orchestra is, it has this dynamic presence. It's going up. It's slowing down a little, and it's going right. So classical music is going to sound like shit on Spotify, because they compress it so that the whole song sounds one volume, very monotone. But they said death metal sounds the same, because death metal already is fucking boring. It's already a plateau of throughout the whole fucking song. So I found that a little bit funny, and I wanted to share it with you. So that's what Spotify does. They pay shit to the artists. They don't do. They make the music shittier quality. And here's the other thing, where we're going to move on to our next topic of what.cd, of what Spotify does that's stupid. And here's what I'll tell you. The last thing that I'll say Spotify that's stupid is the algorithm. What's the algorithm? It's a fucking AI robot algorithm, meaning my band Kroll Klex, right? The closest thing that my band sounded like, that I know from people that have told me, who are fans, who have bought my album overseas, is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard and Brian Jonestown Massacre. That's the closest thing that my band sounded to. But then I would share my album with friends of mine from all different walks. I'm from fucking Chicago, so I had friends who are in the hood, where people get shot every day. I have friends who are in the whitest fucking neighborhood, who listen to fucking John Mellencamp and Fish all day. So when they went on Spotify on their accounts and they listened to my band, the algorithm, I got this like friend who's a wigger from Stone Park, and then I got this friend who's a white kid from Naperville. They would say, if you like Phil's band, you might like King Gizzard, but then you also might like Fish, but then you also might like Grateful Dead, but then you also might like Gucci Mane from the wigger in Stone Park. So it was a shitty fucking algorithm. It never sort of properly promoted my band into the mainstream, the stream of fans of bands that sound like me. So moving on, I found this website called what.cd. This is the part of the video that I'm most excited about. For people who don't know what.cd is, okay, let me explain. What.cd was absolutely, it's like having sex with the hottest, craziest porn video that you're in love with. It gives me a boner thinking about it. What.cd was the best thing for a music fan that ever fucking existed. What is what.cd? What.cd was strictly music. It was a file sharing platform for music, but instead of, how like Kazaa, BearShare, and LimeWire, you had to download downloading software. You had to download a program that opens up BearShare and LimeWire. What.cd worked through the uTorrent platform, but it was in a private connection. It was super private. You had to put in like 3 different passwords to be logged in. It was invite only, and what.cd was a directory of every single music that ever existed. Now, when I say this, listen, I hyped up Kazaa and LimeWire and Napster and BearShare before, but the thing is, all those previous music file sharing programs, you could only download what people had to share or were willing to share. So most of the time, it was whatever the fuck was popular. You could only share those things. And so what.cd did is it was a directory of literally everything. Let me explain. This is how private it was. So yeah, it was invite only. The other thing was it had a ratio for downloading. What that meant is you had to share 10% of what you downloaded at all times. So at these other sites, at these other file sharing platforms, I would fucking download whatever, the whole Slayer discography, put them on CDs, and then I would delete it because I don't need it. I have it on a CD, or I have it in a terabyte drive, right? With what.cd, you had to keep it on your computer for other people to share from you. It was a very sort of like, I guess you could say, communist way of thinking. Everybody shares, don't delete it, right? And if you didn't share 10% of your stuff and people didn't download it, then you couldn't download more. You had to make sure that you're sharing at all times. The other thing that was amazing was a lot of these, Kazaa, LimeWire, and all these file sharing platforms, obviously they had trolls like me who would change up names, to troll these pedophiles. But there were other trolls where instead of changing names, they would not only be inaccurate, but they would share viruses. What was really funny to me was that there were like what is it called, like indirect and foolish trolls, meaning they didn't realize they were being trolls. There were a lot of people who just weren't educated musically, so they would put songs on Kazaa, LimeWire, BearShare, and Napster. They would put like a song by Puddle of Mud, but they thought it was Nirvana, so they put it on there as Nirvana. That type of shit. It was absolutely hilarious to me, or they would put a song, they would put Epic, the song Epic by Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it's really by Faith No More, and it would like piss people off because it was honestly a lot of just dumb people who didn't know who the artist was. But then a lot of people started sharing viruses. What.cd, what they did was, number one, if you put something on there that was inaccurate, like you put a Puddle of Mud song and named it Nirvana, then you got a strike. And if you got 3 strikes, they kicked you off for life. So if you were inaccurate about it, or if you uploaded a virus, you got fucking kicked off. So it was the music nerds' heaven. Here's what I liked. I keep kissing ass to this what.cd. Here's why it was amazing. Because if you went on what.cd, the way it was arranged was every single band had their own page. So it was a little bit like a Wikipedia, So you look up like whatever. So I keep using Slayer as an example. You look up Slayer, and then it says Slayer, studio albums, EPs, LPs, and then here's the part that's fucking crazy. There would be music nerds like me who would go to see Slayer at whatever, the Aragon in Chicago, or, the Riviera in Chicago. We would record it with a professional recorder, and then we would upload it on what.cd. Here's what's funny. The only reason why I would do that is because it was a rare recording, so that meant that my ratio went up so I could download more. I didn't give a fuck about uploading this. I gave a fuck about getting a higher ratio so I could download more. But there were people, other music nerds, who are like, yeah, I was there that night. I want to listen to that exact same set. I love that rant he went on about George Bush in between fucking songs, or whatever the fuck, right? And so you could, it was crazy because I would go to a fucking Slayer show, and then 2 days later, the show that I was at, it's uploaded on what.cd. And not only that, not only with huge bands, but I would see my friends' bands Because other people want to get the ratio up, we would see my friend's band called whatever, Cat Twat. We'd see Cat Twat in Des Plaines, Illinois, with fucking 100 fans on Facebook, and they would upload that shit on what.cd, and you could listen to it there. So it was amazing. Why? Because you can't, there's bands that release shit, and they don't put their shit on Spotify. But you could have done that with what.cd. That's what was amazing. Now, let's get to the grand finale of why I loved what.cd so much, okay? Here's what's amazing, and this is why I shat on the algorithm of Spotify. Because what.cd was a huge community of music nerds, every single band, like it was people like me, where you would see this is a recommendation for you. So I would download it, not knowing who they are, because it was recommended to me. And why did I listen to it? Because here's the difference. Because Spotify, my band was on there. We sound like Brian Jonestown Massacre and King Gizzard, but because my Wigger friend from Stone Park listened to it, who likes Gucci Mane, Spotify recommends you listen to Gucci Mane if you like King Gizzard. You know how fucking stupid that is? That's a stupid AI, okay? So what.cd were actual fans, and they'd be like, yo, if you like this band, you have to check this band out. And I'm telling you, 100% of the time they were right. Every single time I listened to the recommendation band, I'd fall in love with them. So I always found new music, always. I didn't have enough room on my terabyte to have all this, because it was such a good site. Why is it so amazing? Why is this algorithm so amazing? Let me tell you why. Because being the complete opposite of a Tool like Lars Ulrich from Metallica, what I did is I took my band and I uploaded it onto what.cd for people to rip for free. And I forgot to mention, here's the other thing that's awesome on what.cd. Every single album that was on what.cd was in 10 different formats. There was the MP3 192 format, MP3 320 format, WAV format, Lawless format. Somebody even held a high frequency mic to a vinyl and uploaded the vinyl format. It was awesome. So I uploaded my band on there, and within a month, it spread like wildfire. Because I went on there and I voted, okay, what top 5 bands does my band sound like? Maybe Brian Jonestown Massacre, My Bloody Valentine, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Black Angels, and I don't know, Ringo Death Star, right? And then and that's what's awesome is on each. Remember how I said each band had was separated like Wikipedia, where it had its own page? At the bottom of each page was a web where it showed who got voted on the closest. Like the closest band that sounds to me is Brian Jonestown Massacre, whatever, right? And then it spans out further, right? So that's where I got my most promotion. It was fucking crazy. It actually showed me how much of a crab mentality for music there was in Chicago, because I was very devastated and very sort of disappointed. I was like, I don't get it. I think my albums are amazing. I think they sound really good. I think that I'm doing a great job, but these bands that sound like shit, a lot of these bands like shoegaze, neo-psychedelic, and garage rock, they sort of go all hand in hand together. It's kind of the same scene. And so in Chicago, it was all these fucking I call it 4-car garage rock bands, because it's all like suburban rich kids who move to Chicago and they work as coffee baristas or record store people or bartenders. And now they're like, oh, we're the new cool thing, when every song, garage rock is so annoying in Chicago. Every single song is like reverbed megaphone vocals, and it's just 3 playing chords ripping off Captain Beefheart or the Cramps. And I was like, Like if that's how simple and shitty garage rock is, my band should be signed already with the fucking kind of material that I'm releasing. Why isn't it big? Why? And the reason why is because of the crab mentality in Chicago. Because as soon as I uploaded my band on this website, I had people buying my album from China, from Germany, from Belgium, from Japan. I had people in San Francisco calling me, "Hey, we really like your music, and I think it'll help the both of us out if we played your music on our radio station. Can we email you a form that waives that we have permission to do it?" I was like, it's absolutely crazy. So it was amazing for promotion. So in conclusion, I don't know. I don't know what the conclusion is. That's how awesome file sharing was. In conclusion. So what happened to what.cd? What happened? I think in 2000, I think it was in 2012 or 2016, they were raided by the FBI. All of the servers were in France, and they completely got raided and shut down for good. And unfortunately, there really hasn't been anything as good as what.cd. And what I mean by that is the regulations, the rules, the music nerdiness, the diverse like ability to get anybody musically. It disappeared. Now I use this program called SoulSeek. I know it sounds like a black dating website, but it's basically like today's version of Kazaa or LimeWire. And I get mostly music uh and like Kindle books on there because they don't have a lot of like big files like movies on there. But anyways, yeah, I don't think there ever will be another what.cd, and so rest in peace. And if you if any of this interests you, look it up. Yeah, just look up what.cd, like WHAT, the word what dot cd. Just look it up on Google and you'll see the entire story. It's super fucking interesting. Anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, if you learned anything, and even if you didn't, I don't give a fuck, try and subscribe. Wild Phil's Osophy, 3 words, spelled exactly like Wild Philosophy, but just Phil's Osophy. Subscribe on YouTube. I got my podcast on Spotify, those assholes. And I got an Instagram too. I share a lot of my comedy. I'm polishing a new setup that I'll be releasing soon. I just got done with a roast battle that'll come up. I kind of got my ass handed to me, but I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for getting wild. Peace.